All right, guys and girls, this is the hottest day of 2023 so far. Sunday evening, it is still 99 degrees. It got to a 103 degrees here at the Eagle. Just walking down here, I'm sweating. But I just had to come down here and see, and we're going to have several days, the next 3 or 4 days probably over 100, and then actually got about a week forecast of really warm weather and not warm weather, hot weather. And then it's going to have like about every day for about 3 or 4 days in a row, about a 50% chance of rain. Now, I think we're going to get rain every day those 4 days. That's what I'm believing. 50%, I believe that we're going to catch a 50% of rain part every day. 50% chance of rain, meaning that in the area it's forecast in, 50% of the place will get rain, 50% won't. That's what that means. Is that a bite? It's a bite, but I think it's a bluegill. It's not a bass, it's a bluegill hitting it. I just had to see if I could catch just one bass. Just one. I got a little Lucky Strike sinking worm on here. Lucky Sink. There's a lot of grass right here around. It's almost impossible to get a fish up right here without him getting in the grass, particularly if there's any size to him. Some of the smaller ones, you can kind of horse them up a little bit. But if it's a bigger fish, it's kind of hard to get up. And honestly, I'm not catching hardly anything off of the dock. I might get 4 or 5 down here if I come down and fish in the evening for an hour. That's pretty good for an hour, but it's still slow for fishing off of this pier. Part of it is because all the grass is still around. It's going away, but there's still grass around. I fertilized 2 or 3 times. It needs to be fertilized again right now, as a matter of fact. I got a fairly decent algae bloom. You can see it in the water down there. It's kind of dingy, but it needs to be a little bit more probably to really get the sunlight away from that grass. See, I'm in grass right there. I've got a little 3/16 slip sinker on there, Texas rig, and a little Daiichi hook. I think I got a 3/0 hook on there. It might be a 4. But all I'm doing is kind of trying to drop swim that little worm around on the top of that grass. And I was hoping maybe I'd walk down here and say that I caught a fish on a 103-degree day. And I know there was a lot of fish caught on a 103-degree day because some of you went fishing. That's right, went fishing. If you went fishing here in southern Oklahoma, you went fishing on a 103-degree day. Now, if you went early this morning, it was only in the upper 70s, and then real quickly it got in the 80s and then the 90s. And when we come home from church, it was 99. But before the afternoon started cooling back off, I think it was 101. Now I looked at it, I think right before I come down, I think it had gone back down to 99. It's late in the evening, it's 7:30. The sun's just about to get, I should have waited till that sun got behind the mountains a little bit, because it's just boiling down on me right now, boiling down on me. And the fish don't want to bite. There's a lot of grass there. I've got a worm that actually I caught a couple on the other day, so that worm is about torn up. I got an extra one laying here. I laid out just in case I catch a fish on this one first cast. That didn't happen. But in case I caught one real quick, and lost a worm, got tore up, I could put another worm on and try to catch another one. But not only did I not catch one real quick, I haven't caught one, period. I had first cast out there, I had a couple of little ticks, but I think they were bluegill and not bass. Felt like bluegill. Sometimes they fool you. Sometimes it's a big bass, you think it's a bluegill, and you don't jerk, and then you realize it's a big bass, and by then it's usually too late. They spit it out and get away. That's happened to me. Probably happened to about everybody. I finally hit the grass. You'll see I come pretty good ways in there. A lot of those fish might be laying right on that outer edge of the grass as it drops off out there, and so when you get close to the grass, it's a real good place to get a bite. Once you get in here closer, wonder what happened if I drop that worm just right down here by the dock. 100 degrees sunshine. If I was a bass, I might just get right under that dock and lay in that shade where it's probably 5 or 6 degrees cooler. Just about the bottom, the water's about a little bit deeper than the thermocline here, but not much. There's a bite, but it's a bluegill. I don't want you, bluegill. Bluegill was thumping that worm. I think a big bass will run out there and take it away from him. That happens sometime. You feel a bluegill bite, tap, 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 tap. It's a bluegill, you keep working it, boom, solid hit. It's a big bass. Went out and took the worm away from that bluegill. He might be eating the bass and the worm and the bluegill both at the same time. Well, couldn't get a bite under the dock either. It was worthwhile to just try to fish it down there to about 10 or 11 foot deep. No bites. Well, it looks like what I had thought I might post a fish catch up here on Sunday evening. Doesn't look like it's going to happen. I've fished 5 minutes and 40 seconds, no bites. A couple of bluegill bites, and that's been it. I'm throwing out there in water that's about 20 foot deep, and so I'm getting down below that thermocline, no doubt about that. But, well, I would if I dropped it all the way down. I rephrase that, because I am not letting it get down below that thermocline. I'm picking it up, and I don't know exactly, but I'm trying to keep it down there about 10 or 11 foot is where I want it to be swimming. It's about 10 or 11 foot and above that thermocline. And so if there's any out there suspended above it, they'll be able to see my worm. And then when I get in close, I'm getting into the edge, the outside edge of the grass out there. And I'm hoping to get a bite right on the outside edge of that grass. You got to be pretty lucky to come by the exact right spot. And then once you get in the grass, your cast is about history. And you have to do your worm. There's some of that coontail moss right there. That's what's getting on it right there. No barb, so I can get the grass and moss off that bait with pretty easily. That poor bait is almost bit right half in two. Seeing something swimming out there under the water. It looks like a school of shad. I hope that's what it is. Might be a school of bluegill too. It's kind of swimming out there in that calm water. They're not within range, casting range at all. Nothing has tried to strike them. Some sort of bait fish swimming. Could be a school of shad coming up to the top of the water. I hope so. Just not positive I got any shad left. Been trying to get some to stock in here and haven't been able to get that done. It doesn't take a whole lot and you get them started. Unless you have a really bad winter. Some of them will make it through the winter and you got shad going back in your lake again. I like those larger gizzard shad. They make the winter better. Golly, I can't get a bite. I can't buy a bite out there. So am I going to catch a fish at a 103-degree day? Definitely looks like I'm not. Definitely looks like I'm not. But it's worth a shot. Bluegill. Bluegill's got a hold of it right now. I know that's what it is. If I'd have jerked, I wouldn't have got anything but a piece of a worm back probably. Just want that one solid bite. One solid bite. All right, that didn't work. I'm gonna walk over here to the other side and make a throw. Chris is sitting up there at the house, sitting out on the front deck in her Jazzy, watching me try to catch a fish. I told her I want to go try to catch a fish, and she said, well, get after it, baby doll. And I said, all right. So I'm after it. That school of shad or something was right out there, further out than that throw. Uh-oh. Oh, God, that was a bite. He hit it on the fall about 4 foot deep, and I lost my worm. I lost my worm. Huh. Yeah, my other worm's clear over here on the other side. I know this is about as unexciting as it can be when you don't get a bite. People are used to looking at TikTok or something, one of those guys that got those cameras running and they get one bite in 5 hours and they show catching the fish with one cast. Sometimes they've already made the cast and all they're doing is working the bait a little bit. That could have been a bluegill too, but it did not feel like a bluegill. It felt like a good solid thump. Well, something ticked it on the way down then too. Me didn't get it. I bet that was just a big old giant bluegill that got a hold of it a minute ago. I'm sweating like I'm working. Sweating like crazy. What is wrong with me? It's 100 and some odd degrees. The heat index was 115 or something like that today. 115. Way up there. Took a long time, but we got one. Not a real big one. I saw my worm hit way off out there, so that was the only worm I got out. One extra. It's not much. It's not much, but it's a fish on 103. Oh, I hear Chris up there hollering. She said, "Way to go!" Hey, it's worth it to catch a fish from my girl. It's worth it to catch a fish from my girl. Hooked right in the top of the mouth, barbless hook. Just a nice, good little fish. Beautiful, fat fish. Beautiful, beautiful fish. And 115 chill heat index today. 103 actual temperature. It's still probably 105, 108 heat index, and we're catching bass. I sure do love you.